This podcast is for SEO professionals, and each week, with the help of our wonderful guests, we discuss the important stuff that actually affects our careers and progression, but sadly often doesn't get talked about. You know, the invaluable soft and interpersonal skills that are often taken for granted, such as the skills we need for listening, time management, communication, and more. We also talk about the big issues that affect us and our careers, such as burnout, imposter syndrome, self-belief, saying no, plus other big issues and obstacles. With this podcast, we want to share knowledge on topics that unlock our listeners' true potential and enhance not only their careers, but all parts of their lives. So, are you ready to prioritize your own personal growth and career development? Then let's crack on with this week's episode. Hello and a very warm welcome to another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast with your hosts, myself, Sarah McDowell, and the ever so fabulous Tazmin Suleman, with episodes going out every single Thursday. This week is a bit of a special episode as me and Tazmin are joined by our good friend, Jack Chambers-World, who is the host of Search with Candour, a cracking podcast that you should definitely check out. He's joining us as we have a pretty exciting announcement. After 4 successful live podcasts, we are back again. Yep, SEO Mindset and Search with Candour are teaming up to do another live podcast the night before Brighton SEO, which is Wednesday, the 9th of April. We will be recording a podcast episode in front of a live audience. We discuss why we do the live podcast, what the topic will be this time, and how and why you should join us on the night. Before we get into the episode, just a quick reminder of how you can support the podcast. There are plenty ways. One way is giving us a coffee. So we are set up on Buy Me a Coffee, which allows you to give us a one-off donation. Link in the show notes to do that. And please, if you're not already, please do subscribe and follow the podcast. And what would be ever so wonderful is if you could give us a review. That would be ever so fabulous. Are you ready to find out more about the live podcast, what it's about and how you can join us? Well, let's crack on. Now, Tazmin, it's not just me and you today, is it?
No, we've got our friend Jack.
Hello. I'm back again.
So, yes, we have our wonderful friend and collaborator, Jack Chambers-World from Search with Candour. And yeah, it's a little bit of a different format for us because obviously for SEO Mindset episodes, it's either me and Tazmin or me and a guest or Tazmin and a guest. But as this is a special episode because we've got a special announcement, it's me and Tazmin have teamed up and brought Jack on board. Was that a very long-winded way of saying that? Probably.
I mean, have I been on for every single live podcast at this point? I think this is my 3rd or 4th appearance on SEO Mindset. Is that a record for the show? I don't know.
You need to start having like little pins, don't you? Like
like almost like a military thing on my collar. Like you get a new badge each time you come on. Like, yeah.
I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's always wonderful getting you back and joining us on the SEO Mindset podcast. So thank you. How's your morning going so far?
Good. We're recording this first thing in the morning, folks, if you didn't already know, because Sarah loves to record things first thing in the morning to then have the rest of the day to do stuff. But that did mean that I literally ran from my bus to get to the office in time to record this. But we're all here. It's all working. And yeah, we have some very exciting news to talk about the live podcast we're doing for the 5th time in Brighton. Can you believe it's been 5 times? That's crazy. Still feels like it's only 2 or 3 to me.
I mean, we do need to bring up the fact that there was that time where you prioritized a wedding and you did technically miss one.
Yeah, I guess it's 4 for me and 5 for you. Fine, I get it.
Sarah, at some point, we have to let that drop.
Yeah, considering you're the engaged one now, Sarah, you got to worry about that stuff.
Yes, this is very true. This is very
Just
true.
try not to get married anywhere near a Brighton SEO, and then, or if you do, I can really call you out.
So many people keep asking us, like, "Oh, what are your plans? Like, how's it going?" And both me and Tash are very laid back. We'll be one of these couples that have engaged for like 5 years, and we're like, we should probably sort that wedding out at some point, right?
I think Emma and I were engaged for, I want to say like 3 or 4 years, something like that. And then it was even longer because the pandemic postponed it, because we were originally supposed to get married in 2020. And we ended up getting married in 2022 because we kept pushing it back until we could actually get the amount of people we wanted. And actually, it was probably about the same level of attendance as our live podcast, funnily enough, was our wedding. So it was about a similar sort of size.
Sarah, you could get married at Brighton.
I mean, Brighton is very gay friendly. I
There
feel
you
like
go.
it's I don't know if this is a bold statement, but I would see Brighton as like the gay capital of England, maybe.
That's how I understood. So my sister used to live in Brighton because she studied there. So it would have been 10, 15 years ago or so, even longer than that. And it definitely was back then. I remember that being my introduction to like gay clubs and the gay scene and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if it still is, but I think it is still seen as a big cultural center point for the
Mm.
LGBT plus community in the UK. So yeah, I think that would work really well. Maybe we can have it as part of the live podcast. We start with the wedding and then we have the live podcast. Will be your reception.
The only thing that's going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works is there is news that they've legalized gay marriage in Thailand. So me and Tash are quite fancying like going over there. So I mean, I'm sure I could fight the corner for Brighton.
There's a nice beach in Brighton, but it's not as nice as Thai beaches. Yeah.
Oh, Brighton, Thailand, Brighton, Thailand.
Oh, do you want Brighton in October or do you want Thailand? Tough choice.
Who knows? Who knows?
But yeah, we will be back as usual. Like I said, my fourth time and your fifth time back in Brighton on the 9th of April, because it's the day before Brighton SEO. We're going to be doing a live and we're talking about how to build your personal brand, which is something all of us have various different bits of experience with. I know, Tazmin, you've been talking about this a lot recently. I have a little bit of experience, but I'm far less of a individual and a freelancer when it comes to professional stuff. So you guys having your freelancing individual experience as well as doing it while working in companies, my experience from the agency side and my podcasting career, it's going to be a nice little mix of conversations. I think we all have, as has been proven in previous lives, we all have very different life experiences and advice and tips, right?
Yes, definitely. And before we get into that, I think we just need to just discuss the live podcast briefly first, because obviously listeners, some of our listeners, they're aware of the live podcast. They know about it. They come along each time, which is wonderful. But I'm just a bit mindful that some of our listeners, they'll be like, live podcast? What is this about? So, Tazmin, can you sort of, do the honors? What is the live podcast? Why do we do it? And where the collaboration came with the SEO mindset and the search with Candour to do it?
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit into storytelling mode to explain this. So once upon a time, not so long ago, Sarah said, it'd be great to do a live podcast. And I had no idea what that actually meant. And I said, yeah, sure, as I do usually with Sarah. And then she said, my friend Jack would like to, be collaborate with us. I'm thinking, okay, sure, again, as I do with when Sarah talks about podcasts, because she's a podcast queen. But in essence, we are joint with the wanting and passion of helping the industry that we are part of, and used that platform to talk about topics that aren't often talked about in the way that we talk about them. So it's an opportunity. It is a podcast that is recorded in front of a live audience at Brighton the night before Brighton SEO begins, where we choose a topic that is important, has the ability to help people's careers. Does anybody want to chip in? Am I taking this conversation in a weird direction?
Not at all. Like, yeah, so the topics that we pick is all around helping career progression, but we also try, because we always do it the night before Brighton SEO, we also try and tie topics in that will help you when you're at Brighton SEO as well. So in the past, we've had like imposter syndrome. How many times has that come up when you're in a space or a conference with new people? We've talked energy levels, we've talked career planning. So there's two sides of it, isn't there? Yes, 100% the topics you kind of take away. We share our own strategies, experience, and our thoughts about it. And we also invite people who attend in the audience to join us as well, very much to help with your career and personal growth. But we also give you stuff to try and implement when you're at the conference as well.
And I think also here's this thing that's going to help you. Here are these things that you can do to get further down that path, but with a more, I want to say, understanding and compassionate stance rather than a textbook. Here is all this stuff about branding. Now go off and do it. We want to focus on what might stop people do it, or concerns people have, or challenges, and address those in a warm, friendly,
Wholesome
environment. Yeah, wholesome. What a beautiful word. Wholesome environment. And I think for me, that's the beauty of it. People come, they feel safe, they learn something, they feel, what's that? What's that person who said that he felt heard even though he didn't even speak?
yeah.
Ash said that.
Was it Ash?
Yeah, it was Ash.
And that's beautiful.
We always get lovely feedback because I think whenever Brighton SEO happens, there's lots of wonderful events, there's lots of other wonderful things that happen around it. But I think what we offer is something that's more of a relaxed, chilled, tranquil, wholesome vibe where like you can come and get involved in a really great, raw, authentic conversation. You get to meet people beforehand. There's food as well. Who doesn't love a free pizza? But Jack, have we missed anything? Was there anything that you'd like to chip in on the?
I've actually got the quotes in front of me here from a few of the attendees. So the one you just mentioned, Tazmin, was the environment was so giving and everyone had space for everyone else, which is quite rare in a corporate scenario. I felt heard even though I didn't say anything. I felt understood because I wasn't the only one who's feeling this. And like you said, I think I felt heard without saying anything really kind of hit me, and like, oh wow, yeah, even if, because I love the participation we do at the end, the audience participation, the Q&A kind of stuff, and it ends up half being Q&A of like, oh, Tazmin, I'd love your opinion on this. Oh, Sarah, what did you think of this? But also let me share my experience in the same way that you guys on stage are doing. The audience gets involved as well, and we end up the audience teaches each other stuff, right? We hear like, oh, someone's personal story then reflects and, oh yeah, actually that really resonated with me, other fellow audience member, because now I can talk about this thing. And I love that kind of stuff where it feels like we're all in it together, going for the same goal, striving for the same thing. Like you said, it's that warm, welcoming, wholesome kind of environment that is so different to, like you said, Tazmin, a 5-minute YouTube video, top 10 branding advice tips or whatever, or a talk at a conference, for example. They tend to be pretty tightly structured. It's got to be 20 minutes. You got to get your stuff in. You got to get off stage and all that kind of stuff. This is way more free and welcoming and open, and like you said, audience participation and all that kind of stuff. I love that kind of thing where it feels like we're all part of the same community and we're all part of the same voice and having the same discussion.
And with the point on audience participation, like we first started, so when we structured the live podcast, we're like, we'll do a Q&A so the audience can ask us a question and all of that lovely stuff. But what soon that has turned into, it's not like a traditional Q&A, is it? It's more like story sharing time. So we do get questions and people do ask, don't they? But what also happens, which is wonderful, is people use it for their chance to share their experience, or they share their knowledge, or they share how they've dealt with a certain situation. So yeah, it's not just about the three of us and our stories and our strategies and tips. There is that as an element, but when we open the floor, it's more of a collaborative, everyone in the room having a really lovely discussion, really.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it works. And again, I'll read another quote here because I think it's lovely. It works as that pre-conference event, right? Because it helps you prepare for a big event like Brighton SEO. So here is a quote from we received in one of our feedback forms. The live podcast was the best pre/post day of conference event that I've been to so far, and the supportive community of people that attended really shows off one of the good sides to SEO that doesn't get talked about enough. And in the little ad we've been doing and we'll be posting on social media and all that kind of stuff, we joke that it's kind of become a bit of a tradition. But people have actually told us that. That's not us just saying like, oh, it's a bit of a tradition, ha ha ha. Like, it genuinely feels like it's part of the overall experience of attending Brighton SEO, which is the biggest marketing conference in the UK. It's one of the biggest SEO conferences in the world. There's thousands of people attending. And the fact that we can bring together 100 or so people in a room and help them get ready for the next couple of days of chaos and busyness and professional faces and all this networking and learning so much from all the speakers and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice little warm up and a little moment of networking and learning and all that kind of stuff in that kind of positive environment that hopefully then sets you up as, okay, I'm feeling ready, I'm feeling energized. Now I can go and be my best self for the next couple of days while I'm learning, networking, meeting new people, all that kind of stuff in Brighton. And I think for me, that was kind of the initial kind of impetus of like, oh, that's why we want to do this thing. It feels like a really nice pre-conference setup and a nice little kind of starter for everyone to get in the mood and in the zone and feeling energized and all that kind of stuff. And it seems to have really resonated with people. We've had many people come back, all 4 times so far, hopefully all 5 times. I'll be back for the next one as well.
They should get pins as well, shouldn't they? They should get like,
exactly.
My fifth time.
There'll be some attendees that have been to more than I have, so that'll be embarrassing for me.
Right, we are at a point where, looking at the time, we do need to take a short break. So obviously we have discussed the live, why it happens, what's the reason. Jack has teased the topic of, saw the eyebrows there. Jack teased the topic of what we're going to talk about. So we'll take a short break so you guys can ingest all this wonderful information. And when we get back, we will discuss a bit more about personal brand. Like, a big thing is that it's not just online, right? There's more things that you've got to think about, but we'll also be talking top level things about how do you figure out what your brand is and things like that. So yeah, let's take that short break and join us back.
Hi, Tazmin here. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Be more visible, earn more, but also take care of your well-being and have work-life harmony? Well, I can help you because I'm offering you a free 30-minute consultancy call. Together we can go through where you want to be and how to get there. Simply click on the link in the show notes, fill in a form, and I'll get back to you.
It's your pal Sarah here. Would you like to support the podcast? Do you want to support what me and Tazmin are doing? Well, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. For example, we are set up on Buy Me a Coffee, which means that you can give us a one-off donation. We'd be very much appreciative of that. And if you leave us a message, we can also give you a shout out. We're also on social media, so let's get connected. Reach out, follow us, ask us questions, send us a message, suggest topics, whatever you want to talk to us about, we are all ears. We are on all the major social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter or X. I'm not sure how you're meant to say that now. But anyway, there is a link in the show notes where you can follow us. But just search the SEO Mindset and we'll come up. The live podcast is back. SEO Mindset and Search with Candour is teaming up again to record a podcast in front of a live audience the night before Brighton SEO. And the topic is all about personal brand. We'll be discussing what this is, why it's important, and sharing strategies and our own experiences. Time for the important details. It's happening Wednesday the 9th of April 2025. from 7 p.m. at Projects The Lanes. It's free to attend and there'll be free pizza, snacks and drinks. Please help us to spread the word. Tell your friends, your work colleagues, anyone and everyone, anyone who you think would really enjoy this event. It was a sellout last time, so grab your ticket today to secure your spot. To do that, simply head on over to the show notes and you'll find a link. We really look forward to seeing you on the night. We are back with part 2. Jackie, you still with us?
I'm still here. Don't worry. I have barely moved. Don't worry. I'm still in the Candour studio, still ready to chat with you guys about the topic we're going to be talking about for the live podcast. I know I teased it in the first half. I'm excited to actually dive in and get some actual chat and discussion.
You didn't do your eyebrows that time, though.
That's true. That's true.
So yes, hopefully we've convinced people that if they're in Brighton or if they're in Brighton SEO, why wouldn't they not want to come along to this live podcast? It is also free as well. No brainer. So let's use this part to talk about the topic. And yeah, I think, I mean, who wants to start? Tazmin, I'm looking at you.
So the topic personal branding, it seems like everyone's talking about personal branding. It's the topic of the season. But the more I've been looking into it, thinking about it, it's people's perception of you. And that's been around from the day dot. Everyone will have a perception of you, even if they've never met you. And I went through this phase of, I suppose, eye rolling, like, oh no, personal brand, like, oh, here's another thing I have to do. But the more I think about it, I'm now in the zone of, this is something I get to do because I have the ability to shape people's opinion of me in a way that suits me. So why wouldn't I do it? So that was one of my, I don't know if you want to call it aha moments, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so it does. So I'm going to pull out two things that you said. It's always around, isn't there? Because personal branding is what people think about you, but also I think there is an element of you can control to a certain extent your personal brand and what you want to put out there. And you can decide what that is and what your personal brand is. And obviously, there's lots of elements of brand, is it generally speaking, but as a personal brand, it's like, okay, yourself, what are your values? What are your passions? What are your ethics? What is your thing? Yeah. So there's that element of it. And also, it is a very increasingly popular topic because I'm seeing more and more people talking about it online. I'm seeing it come up more at conferences. We've already covered it on the podcast. So we had the wonderful Crystal Carter come onto the podcast way back when, actually. I think that was quite a while ago now, but she came on and talked about personal branding. So we'll pop that link in the show notes so you can check that out. But yeah, I'm definitely with you. And I agree that it is important. It's important to think about. It's important to get your head around because, yeah, you can use it to help you attract the right audience or the right people to you. Jack, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of it when it comes to smaller brands and stuff like that, when you're thinking about it from a company perspective. And we've talked about this many times on Search with Candour recently as well. A lot of guests, funnily enough, the other half of the SERPs Up podcast, Morty Oberstein, was on the show talking about the nature of brand and how that's shifting in SEO and how, especially with the growth of and the shifting in technologies we're seeing with so many LLMs and AI and all that kind of stuff happening in organic search at the moment, brand is more important than ever. And I think that is especially true for personal brand because you're totally right, Sarah. I think the value side of things is something that really resonates with me. It's something I talked about on the SEO in 2025 podcast with the Majestic guys, David Bain and the team over at Majestic, and the book and the podcast series and all that kind of stuff. I talked about authenticity and why that is important. And it's a topic we've already covered in the live podcast, right? We've talked about how important it is to be authentically yourself and how that can help you resonate with potential collaborators, potential customers. And speaking from my own experience, that is very much how I attach myself to brands that I follow, creators that I like, podcasts that I listen to. Do they line up with my ethics? Do they line up with my values? Do I feel like, I would want to have a meal with them or have a drink with them or whatever, that kind of thing, right? It seems like something really small and simple, but actually, as you were saying, Tazmin, that can make a huge difference in how people perceive you in real life and online. And I think I've kind of accidentally stumbled into my personal brand, which is an authentic me. You guys have met me in real life. We've spoken off camera and off mic many times before. This Jack on the podcast is basically the same as the Jack who will chat with you in the pub or at a conference or on the phone or whatever. I'm kind of just me the whole time. And that authentic nerdiness that is me, I guess, kind of became my personal brand without me even realizing. And I think that comes to a lot of people when you have that, as you said, Tazmin, the aha moment of like, oh yeah, that does actually matter. Like that influences how other brands are going to work with you, collaborators. Should I go on this panel or this podcast or work in this place or this company or whatever it is? That kind of thing really kind of clicked in place with like, oh yeah, I've aligned myself with like-minded folks, like the two of you there over at the SEO Mindset, where we all come together and we all have similar values, similar beliefs. We are, again, doing things like the live podcast because we think we want to make a positive change in the industry that can often be very toxic and very dangerous and all kinds of stuff and very unpleasant and very negative. But we can bring a bit of positivity to it. That's a huge thing. And for me, and again, it's kind of speaking on your behalf as my collaborators in this project, like that's the kind of thing we want to go for, right? And I think that's, for me, where so much of personal branding matters is when you can align with other people, other brands, other companies, work in other companies that align with you and build to make it even better in the long run.
And I suppose that's where self-awareness is really important and getting to know who you are as a person. And just want to touch on what you said, Jack, about you, professional Jack, and Jack off the screen or personal Jack. They're very similar. And I remember when I first got into SEO or even first got into a professional career, I used to do a bit of masking, or not masking, but I would present in a way that I thought was important because, this is professional Sarah. This is how professional Sarah should be.
She's got a slightly deeper voice.
I know. And eyebrows. It's all about the eyebrows in this episode. But it wasn't until I realized that a lot of my time in my SEO career, I've been client facing, or I've worked with people, or collaboratively. And one of the things that I've realized is people stick around, brands, companies, and other people that you work in on projects together, they stick around because they like you. They like what you stand for. So it was a bit of a journey for me, but I realized actually I don't have to pretend to be someone that I'm not. And actually the times where I'm a bit more vulnerable and I show my true self, that's when I can create a better relationship with other people, and they stick around, obviously. And this is important, and I think Willow talked about this when she joined us for the live on authenticity. Like when you're talking about being raw and authentic, it's not about showing your all the time and showing things that you're not comfortable with. You've still got to have your boundaries, and you've still got to decide, okay, this is okay for me to share this side of me. But yeah, so there's two elements of it. Yeah. So show up, show people who you are, but you can control that. And it's my earlier point. You can decide how much you want to show of yourself. You can have your boundaries. Tazmin, what are your thoughts after me and Jack?
So I think one of the things too that has become increasingly obvious is that people seem to link personal branding with how you show up online. But it's not just about showing up online. How do you show up in the office? How do you show up in meetings? How do you even show up in your friendship circles, your family circles? So when I say this perception of you has been around since the year dot, we've all got that person in the family. Oh, we've got this organizing task to do. Oh, so and so are really great at organizing, even though they haven't got family organizer title. We know who that person is. Or if you're in a work setting, I'm stuck on this Excel thing. I'll go and talk to so and so, not me. Nobody come to me for Excel advice. Not your person. That's Jack. So we have a perception of people. Now, when you are progressing in your career, how do you want to progress? Do you want to be the person who is training a lot more? In which case, how can you show up as trainer, Tazmin, Jack, Sarah in the office environment? Do you want to be the person who represents your organization at conferences? So it's knowing who you are, as you said, self-awareness, knowing where you want to go in your career and how can you shape your personal brand to assist it. So I think that's one distinction I want to make. It's not just about online. Yes, it is partly online, partly office, and also who do you want to be? And that's the deeper question for me. When you talked about you sort of stumbled into your personal brand of being who you are, Jack, when I was asked to do this workshop on personal branding, I said to Hannah, are you sure you want me to do it? Because I don't know a lot about personal branding. And she said, well, you've created one. And I sort of worked backwards and thought, oh, so I did by doing this, by talking about that, by being here. So I think there's real power in helping you get to where you want to get to and being who you want to be through the assistance of intentional personal branding.
Yeah, and that's a big thing about. So something that I promised myself is that I want to be more intentional. So obviously, me being freelance, taking on projects or doing speaking gigs or whatever I'm doing, I'm at a point now that, and it's part of my personal brand, isn't it? So me deciding and me being more intentional in what I say yes to. I think in the past, I've always said yes to opportunities, or I've always said yes when I get asked to do things, because earlier on, I think that's important because you want to test different things out. And that is part of your self-awareness and understanding who you are. And that does make up your personal brand. But now I'm at a point now where I'm a little bit different. And I'm like, okay, I'm fortunate to get opportunities and to get asked to do different things. And now I can be a bit more intentional. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no to things, isn't it? If they don't align.
You can't say yes to everything. And some people see that as a restriction, whereas it's empowering. You can't do it all. So guess what? Do the bits that you love doing.
Right. I'm going to be that strict one because we are coming to time, people, and we want people to join us on the actual night. So obviously this has been very top level. It's been wonderful speaking to you both about personal brand, but please, 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 if you want more, come to the live podcast because we'll be going into a lot more detail. We'll be sharing a lot more strategies, experience. It's your opportunity as well to come and join us and share your knowledge and experience, ask questions. So please, please, please do join us for the live podcast the night before Brighton SEO, someone say the date. The date's not on the top of my head here.
Wednesday, the 9th of April, 2025.
And we kick off at
7 p.m. Is it 7 p.m.? 6
This is
p.m.?
so seamless.
I know. We've all gone wrong now.
7 sounds good.
And the venue?
Project the
Project
Lanes
the
in Brighton.
Lanes.
We know that one.
And Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot. What if somebody listening cannot come to Brighton? How can they access it?
Oh, good question. Yes. So if you can't join us on the night, do not fret. There'll be a couple of different ways that you can still join in and listen. So on the night, there will be a live stream. So the event will be live streamed to Silicon Brighton's YouTube channel. So that's one way that you can join us. Or alternatively, it's a live podcast. So what that means is it will be recorded on the night, and then that recording will be published on both Search with Candour and the SEO Mindset podcast feeds. So yeah, if you can't join us on the night, there are plenty of ways that you can still join us. Should we all give one succinct reason why you should come on the night?
I got told off for mine last time.
I don't remember that.
I
Told you off, Jack.
I said free pizza, and Tazmin went, "Oh, more than just free pizza, Jack. How dare?" Got told off
Yeah,
by
okay.
Tazmin.
Now I can see why I would have told you.
Yeah.
You get to hang out with cool people, including me. That's worse than the free pizza, isn't it? No, it's a great evening. It's definitely an evening that I look forward to. Twice a year, I get to hang out with some really wonderful people, have some great conversations, and yes, Jack, free food.
For me, I think we go back to what I said in the first half, the quote from one of our attendees, like feeling heard without having to say anything, like that sense of community and participation. Even if you don't want to have the mic passed to you and speak in front of a lot of people, I think you'll find a really nice sense of, everybody coming together and having similar experiences, and you'll learn a thing or two. If it's not from the three of us, then you'll certainly learn something from your fellow audience members as well.
There we go. Great reasons. And my reason would be, it's a great way to start the whole Brighton SEO experience. It's a great starter. I think Jack's already said that. Obviously, Brighton SEO is your main course. I don't know what the dessert would be in this scenario, but I think I'm going off on a bit of a tangent.
The parties, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great starter. So if you're looking for something to do the night before Brighton SEO where you can meet other people, have a chilled, sort of relaxed vibe, get some free food. Sorry, Tazmin. But yeah, it's a lovely way to start Brighton SEO. And also, you can already make a friend. So if you're coming to Brighton SEO for the first time or you're on your own, it's a great way to come and meet other people and find a buddy before the conference. There's another reason. We'll be your buddies, won't we, guys?
Definitely.
We already are.
There you go. So we'll make sure that the links to grab your tickets, depending on where this is posted, there'll be a link somewhere around our face or link in the show notes. So go and grab your tickets before they all go. Any more, guys?
All good. Yeah, I'm happy. Looking forward to it. Excited to reunite with you guys in Brighton and talk about personal branding and hear from the audience. I'm so fascinated because we had such interesting bits and pieces and questions and ideas and stories from the audience last time. I think a lot of people were like kind of shocked by how many people were really enthused to like, actually, yeah, I have something to say about that and I've got this experience. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the audience have got to say as well. I can't wait to hear it.
Wonderful. Right. We look forward to seeing you there. Sadly, that brings us to another end of another episode. Jack, thank you very much for joining me and Tazmin.
Thank you for having me on. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you guys, whether that's on the podcast virtually or doing a live podcast in person. It's always fun to chat with you guys.
Wonderful stuff. And we will make sure that all links to the live podcast, but also Jack, Search with Candour, all of that lovely stuff, we'll pop them all in the show notes so you can go and check him out. Go and check out the podcast because it's a cracking podcast, isn't it? Even if you say
You've both
so
been on it
yourself,
before.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, let's get this whole show wrapped up. And the only thing left to say is goodbye. Take care of yourselves, and until next time.
See you in Brighton.
Take care, everyone.
Don't forget about that live podcast happening the night before Brighton SEO, which is all about personal brand. Yep, the SEO Mindset and Search with Candour podcasts are teaming up again. It's happening Wednesday, the 9th of April, 2025 from 7 p.m. at Projects The Lanes. It's free to attend and there'll be free pizza, snacks and drinks. Please help us to spread the word. Tell your friends, work colleagues, anyone and everyone. Help us shout it from the rooftops. It was a sellout last time. So to avoid that horrible FOMO feeling, grab your ticket today to secure your spot. Head on over to the show notes for the link and we look forward to seeing you on the night.